Aloha! 안녕하세요. How can you learn second language fast? I have learned English with no real abroad education. I live in Korea. My talent is quite not good. It needs to memorize words and grammars, many words and grammars. They essentially count English in the same way of math. My English skill was weak, and my thing was, how can I speak English in efficient way? So without memorization and calculating on words and grammar. So I flew to psychological exercises. I concentrated, how can I facilitate my brain to acquire second language? And it works. Woo! So that now I got relationships with many native speakers, and recently I worked as an interpreting reporter on TV news for abroad students in Korea, and it takes a lot of time, but almost all acquisition got after the way. I use these psychological factors. Yay! And here's a field of second language acquisition called SLA in psychology. It says there's a proper way to arrange our brain to acquire SLA. Chris Lonsdale explained it.
Same way, with the same logic, anybody can learn a second language in 6 months. How? There are 5 principles and 7 actions. There may be a few more, but these are absolutely core. So talent doesn't matter. People also think that immersion in a new country is the way to learn a language. But look around Hong Kong. Look at all the Westerners who've been here for 10 years who don't speak a word of Chinese. Look at all the Chinese. So what are the 5 principles that you need to pay attention to? First, there are 4 words: attention, meaning, relevance, and memory. And these interconnect in very, very important ways, especially when you're talking about learning. Come with me on a journey through a forest. You go on a walk through a forest and you see something like this, little marks on a tree. Maybe you pay attention, maybe you don't. You go another 50 meters and you see this. You should be paying attention. Another 50 meters, if you haven't been paying attention, you see this. And at this point, you're paying attention. And you've just learned that this is important, it's relevant, because it means this, and anything that is related, any information related to your survival is stuff that you're going to pay attention to, and therefore you're going to remember it. If it's related to your own personal goals, then you're going to pay attention to it. It's relevant, you're going to remember it. So the first rule, first principle for learning a language is focus on language content that is relevant to you, which brings us to tools. We master tools by using tools, and we learn tools the fastest when they're relevant to us, to create value. So the second principle for learning a language is to use your language as a tool to communicate right from day one, as a kid does. When I first arrived in China, I didn't speak a word of Chinese, and on my second week I got to take a train ride overnight. I spent 8 hours sitting in the dining car talking to one of the guards on the train. He took an interest in me for some reason. And we just chatted all night in Chinese. And he was drawing pictures and making movements with his hands and facial expressions. And piece by piece by piece, I understood more and more. But what was really cool was 2 weeks later, when people were talking Chinese around me, I was understanding some of this. And I hadn't even made any effort to learn that. What had happened, I'd absorbed it that night on the train, which brings us to the third principle. When you first understand the message, then you will acquire the language unconsciously. And this is really, really well documented now. It's something called comprehensible input. There's 20 or 30 years of research on this. Stephen Krashen, a leader in the field, has published all sorts of these different studies. And this is just from one of them. The purple bars show the scores on different tests for language. The green and the purple people were people who had learned by grammar and formal study. The green ones are the ones who learned by comprehensible input. So comprehension works. Comprehension is key. And language learning is not about accumulating lots of knowledge. In many, many ways, it's about physiological training. Speaking takes muscle. You've got 43 muscles in your face. You have to coordinate those in a way that you make sounds that other people will understand. If you've ever done a new sport for a couple of days and you know how your body feels, hurts, if your face is hurting, you're doing it right. And the final principle is state, psychophysiological state. If you're sad, angry, worried, upset, you're not going to learn, period. If you're happy, relaxed, in an alpha brain state, curious, you're going to learn really quickly. And very specifically, you need to be tolerant of ambiguity. If you're one of those people who needs to understand 100% every word you're hearing, you will go nuts because you'll be incredibly upset all the time because you're not perfect. If you're comfortable with getting some, not getting some, just paying attention to what you do understand, you're going to be fine, you'll be relaxed, and you'll be learning quickly. So based on those 5 principles, what are the 7 actions that you take? Number 1, listen a lot. I call it brain soaking.
So I'm gonna make some training video for you and contest at these psychological exercises for learning Korean language. For example, first I will show you in a lesson about could you repeat in Korean. I know that can be essential to ask your language parents to give you some feedbacks. Another good measure I introduce you now is extreme slow speaking Korean sentence and sequentially faster repeating until it sounds like natives. If you watch many times these videos, you will get better, and proper quiz is quite good measure to check your own knowledge. Let's get going with me. Woo!